So the title for today's sermon is Truth Hurts. And to be honest with you, when I first settled on that, I was a little where is this going to go? Because I don't usually title sermons, but when I'm a guest preacher somewhere, y'all always want a title. I don't like those. Usually it just says sermon and then my name is over there on the far right. And then it just works itself out. When you give somebody a title 2 or 3 weeks out, then you kind of got to wedge it in there, and make it work. So Truth Hurts is something we're going to work with because the truth of this title is something that hurts right now. And so we're going to make it work because I happen to know that Truth Hurts is also the title of a very popular song by Lizzo. If you don't know who that is, you should. Well, amen. All right. To each his own. But in that song, one of my favorite lines is, why do men gotta be great until they gotta be great? I mean, that's just a great line. Truth Hurts is also the name of an R&B artist from the late 90s and early 2000s. You would have no reason to know who she is. She only had one hit, and I think the title of it was Contagious. It's a song that you probably don't ever want to hear. Truth Hurts is also something that, a way to talk about something that someone says when they tell you something that's different from what you thought or believed, but they tell you, and they say it's for your own good. That truth always hurts, right? But we're not talking about singers, songs, or do-gooder tactics. Today we're considering what truths we tell ourselves about ourselves and what truths we tell ourselves about other people that may or may not be helpful. So as we look at this text, by the time we get to verse 27 of Mark chapter 8, Jesus has been very busy. I mean, in chapter 8 alone, we have the story of the feeding of the 4,000. We have Jesus engaging with the Pharisees in one of those classic exchanges where they just go back. I mean, talk about the Hatfields and the McCoys. I mean, it just goes on. Y'all don't know the Hatfields and McCoys? Okay, so, and then there's this whole thing about bread. I mean, it just goes on. Jesus is very busy. And then we come to this place where he asks the disciples, who do people say I am? And Peter responds to him with what I believe is the truth as Peter understood it. But truth will not always feel good, and it will not always feel right. And I know our current way of relating is bound by whether we share agreement on theology or whether we share alignment in our politics. In fact, our theology and our politics are difficult to distinguish one from the other. Now, that's not bad. It's not wrong. It just is. Because our politics should be informed by our theology and our lived experiences. However, when the two become so interwoven that church services and the makeup of a congregation look more like a political rally for a candidate or a particular political ideology or party, that's where we lose our opportunity to be and to become beloved community. We can't be or become beloved community if we do not accept and view one another as beloved creations of God. I mean, Haitians resettling, I'm going there. Haitians resettling in Springfield, Ohio is as beloved as Ukrainian refugees who can blend in ever so slightly in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The woman who chose to complete med school instead of having a child that she was not ready to raise is just as beloved as the mother of 5 children who lost her husband in war and did the best she could to take care of them. The young person coming to terms with who they are and who they shall become is as beloved as the teenager tried as an adult for a crime he committed and is serving a 25 to life sentence. the reconciling congregation and the one that struggles to accept and receive those who don't believe that heaven is big enough or that God is gracious enough to love all that God created. Well, they're equally as beloved. It seems all of us have more to learn and more growing to do. Because all of us come with one perspective. You know this? We have one perspective. Even as we change and transform over time, we still have one perspective. We're one person with many experiences. Now, we act like, anyway, you know, we're not old friends, so I probably shouldn't meddle yet. So when I come back, count on me meddling, all right? But can we allow space for others to exist and find their way without it threatening our privilege of our need to be right? Can we? And let me warn you, this is not a universalist theology or a big tent denominational pitch. I'm not giving you one of those. I don't want you calling the bishop and reporting me, okay? I'm not giving you one of those. He's not going to answer the call, okay? But this is a recognition that God created us, and we get to co-create even more through our relationships and our engagement in the world. That includes how we honor, protect, and preserve our natural environment. Climate change impacts weather, economy, health, wealth, and education in the most underserved and overlooked communities and people groups more than anywhere else. And some of us see that and care about it deeply. In fact, it's important enough that if we take it seriously, we'll see that climate change threatens everything we hold dear and necessary for life. And of course, there are those who call it weather or a scare tactic. They too are God's beloved. But what does this have to do with the question Jesus asked? Well, I'm so glad you asked. For Jesus asked, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter answered, "Some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, others say some other prophets." And Jesus replied, "But who do you say that I am?" And Peter answered, "Thou art the Christ," or "Thou art the Messiah." In other readings of this encounter, see, I grew up in rural North Alabama, going to Baptist and Methodist churches where the only version of the Bible was, you've been there, okay? And down there, Jesus says, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah." You remember this? Yeah. For flesh and blood did not reveal that unto you. In the midst of that confession that Peter offers, Jesus changes Simon's name to Peter, Petra, rock. Changes his name to the Rock, not to be confused with Dwayne Johnson, the Rock. But I could see the movie. I could see it. But Jesus says, "Upon this rock I will build my church." Upon this confession that I am the Messiah, I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against thee. They taught me to say Hades in California. So in Mark 8, Jesus goes on to reveal more. Then he goes on to reveal more about his death and the purpose of his ministry, and how we're to take up our cross and we're supposed to follow him. And it's not all going to be easy, but this is the way to go. This is the thing to do. He shares teachings about how their lives have value and their witness will matter beyond his life and ministry. But nowhere in his declaration and teaching does he point a finger and determine that he cannot or will not engage those with whom he disagrees. He does not state that he will not engage because they might hurt his feelings. See, hurt feelings, I've come to understand that hurt feelings can be a privilege that some have, while others hold deep, abiding fear for their lives. Okay. So the choice to engage or not to engage someone who may seem threatening to you, it's a privilege that everyone does not have. Because some of us live in skin that has us in what feels like we're always threatened. So we expect our feelings to get hurt just because of who we are. So we don't assume we're safe. So when our feelings get hurt, that's a good day. When we make it back home alive, that's a great day. So all you're going to do is hurt my feelings? Psh, we can have coffee on Tuesday. But instead, he engages the Pharisees. He doesn't spend his time trying to get them to change their position or opinion. He speaks his truth as he understands it. And does what? Keeps on keeping on. He continues to be Jesus as he was created and sent to be. And Peter's confession named his recognition of Jesus' identity and Jesus' purpose. Though Peter heard many things about Jesus from many people, we hear that in how he answers Jesus' question. Well, some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, some say one of the other prophets. I don't know. People are talking. The streets are abuzz. I don't know. But he was able to discern who and what Jesus was by how Jesus showed up in the world and in their midst. So who do you say Jesus is? Better yet, if I ask your neighbor, your classmate at school, or the parents with whom your children play, people you owe money. Oh, y'all don't owe people money? Okay, all right. What if I ask the last stranger you encountered, or the barista at your favorite coffee spot, or the clerk at your local grocery store whose name you probably don't even know? Who would they say you say Jesus is? And I'm not wondering if they would say you come in every Thursday speaking tongues and quoting Bible verses. They'd probably say you're half crazy, but... But I am wondering if they would know you are a person of faith, or if they would recognize that you have deeply held convictions that matter to you and that you think matter to the world. Would they recognize that your opinions and perspectives do not cancel out or diminish their lived experiences? Would they know that if they voted for someone you would never, ever vote for, that you would still see them as a beloved child of God? I mean, look at how Jesus responds to Peter when Peter gets indignant about Jesus' prediction of his death. That doesn't read like a quiet chat. I mean, we always read that with a little vibrato in it because we know how we were cut up in that same situation. Did you notice how your voice changed when you read that? Did you notice? Yeah. I listened for it. I wanted to test it and make sure it was true. Did y'all hear it? It changes when we read that. Get behind me. But he says, "Thou art the Christ, the anointed one." That was the confession upon which Jesus said he would establish his church, and that is the confession upon which even this church is established. There's a story that I encountered several years ago called The Rabbi's Gift. You can Google it. The person who wrote it or is given credit for it is M. Scott Peck, The Rabbi's Gift. And the summary of the story is that there's this... Let me make this relevant to you. There's this church out in the wherever, and over time it's dwindled in size and activity and participants. And so all of the monks there, they're trying to figure out, what do we do? And so the one in charge goes off into the woods, into this little cabin where there's this rabbi who hangs out from time to time, and he goes to the rabbi and he names all the woes of what's happening with his community and names how participation is down. They don't have new monks coming to join their community. The place is in disrepair. He doesn't know what to do. So he asks the rabbi, "What do I do?" And the rabbi thought for a minute and he says, "I don't know. But what I do know is the Messiah is one of you." And so the guy walks away and he goes back to his community and he's wondering, what does this mean? The Messiah is one of you. And so he shares with the monks who are gathered there. The rabbi said that the Messiah is one of you. And they started wondering, well, he couldn't mean me. Not with my attitude and the way I show up with the others. But what if it's him? He's always stepping up, helping out. Or what if it's him? He's always praying for others, and you can always call on him at a moment's notice, and he's there. And so they started wondering, if it's not me, maybe it's you. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's you. And before long, people started showing up there in their community. The building was repaired and restored, and people started joining their community, and it grew because they kept wondering, which one is the Messiah? And they entreated each one as though they were the Messiah. And it changed the community. So when we think about how we have or have not entreated one another, here and abroad, that truth may hurt. But the rabbi in the story said, the Messiah is one of you. And the beauty of that is that with every new day, we can gain a new perspective on that day, on who we see in the mirror and who we see out in the world. And might we go out wondering, are you the Messiah? Are you the Messiah? Might you be the Messiah? And if that question is too lofty for you, and it causes you to do some theological gymnastics that make you uncomfortable, another way to appropriate that question is, will I see you as God's beloved? Will I receive you as God's beloved? And the answer to that, I hope, is truth that we can live with and truth upon which we can base our lives. Amen.